At the frozen silent frontier of our solar system, far beyond the final reaches of the sun's influence, an aging spacecraft, launched in 1977, continues to whisper faint signals back to Earth. That spacecraft is Voyager 2. For over 4 decades, it has journeyed through uncharted space, sending back data no machine had ever gathered before, and images that redefined how we see the cosmos. But recently, Voyager 2 transmitted something wholly unexpected, a fragmented, distorted signal that left NASA's engineers stunned. Initially, the strange message seemed like a technical fault, but upon closer analysis, something far more disturbing became clear. The anomaly didn't arise from any known system failure. It originated from somewhere else, somewhere Voyager wasn't meant to be, and the data it sent back implied something profound. The edge of the solar system may not be a boundary but a veil. Voyager 2, it seems, may have passed through it, into something more ancient, more intricate, and possibly more intelligent than anything we have imagined. For years, Voyager 2 has drifted steadily into interstellar space, hurtling through the void at over 34,000 miles per hour. Despite its age, its instruments have faithfully relayed plasma data, cosmic ray readings, and magnetic field measurements, nothing out of the ordinary. But then, without warning, a subtle anomaly appeared in a routine transmission. One of its core systems, the attitude, articulation, and control subsystem, the brain that keeps Voyager aligned with Earth, began communicating through a computer module that had been dormant for decades. This unexpected rerouting rendered the data unreadable. Yet curiously, the spacecraft itself remained perfectly aligned, and its signal strength was undiminished. The system wasn't broken. It was operating as if by choice, sending data through a dead channel that hadn't been used in years. No command had been issued to trigger this change. In all of its 45 years of operation, Voyager had never behaved like this. More unsettling still was where the data was being rerouted to. When NASA engineers examined the corrupted logs, they discovered that the telemetry wasn't just gibberish. It followed specific patterns reminiscent of the spacecraft's original launch protocols, as though Voyager had rebooted not in error, but into a forgotten memory. Embedded deep within the corrupted packets was a recurring pulse, low frequency, consistent and entirely foreign to Voyager's known signal architecture. It pulsed every 744 seconds, faded in and out like a heartbeat, and ignored all external commands. NASA began referring to it simply as the heartbeat. Some suspected a software glitch. Others weren't so sure. The frequency didn't appear to come from Voyager at all. It seemed to originate from outside the spacecraft. That's when fear began to ripple through the scientific community. Not that the probe had malfunctioned, but that it was interacting with something unknown beyond the solar system, something structured, something real. NASA eventually released a carefully worded statement. Yes, there had been a telemetry issue. Yes, engineers had resolved it by rerouting the signal back through proper channels. But what the public didn't hear was what was uncovered during that reroute. When the original data was decoded using Voyager's legacy systems, an eerie pattern emerged. Hidden among the corrupted blocks were binary markers not sent from Earth and not recorded in Voyager's onboard memory. When visualized, these markers formed a recursive geometric shape, hexagons within hexagons. This pattern echoed natural forms like fractals and biological structures, but in a digital context it felt distinctly alien. Some likened it to machine-coded crop circles. More disturbing were the timestamps. They didn't align with Voyager's current timeline. They were offset, as if originating from another layer of time altogether. One NASA insider allegedly remarked, "We didn't just receive a signal, we received a message." As fragments of this discovery circulated within select scientific circles, a new theory began to emerge, one that would shake the foundation of our understanding. What if this wasn't just an anomaly? What if Voyager's strange signal wasn't a malfunction but a reply? Not from a planet or a spacecraft, but from a structure, an interstellar field capable of capturing, reshaping, and returning our signals in altered forms. The binary patterns weren't errors, they were reflections. They were signatures of something that heard Voyager, studied it, and then answered, in its own way. And perhaps most perplexing of all, it used an old, long-deactivated subsystem to do it. It was as if Voyager had been drawn into a conversation, one it didn't start. A conversation with something that had been listening and waiting. The implications were staggering. NASA, recognizing the sensitivity of what was unfolding, quietly locked down communications related to the incident. Internal memos began to refer to it as Event V2X. Engineers who had worked on decoding the data were reassigned. Independent researchers helping with the waveform analysis received formal requests to stop their investigations. Public access to Voyager 2's data was quietly suspended for the first time in its history. Outside official channels, however, rogue researchers started drawing parallels between Voyager's strange binary markers and earlier unexplained signals, like the famous "wow" signal of 1977 and more recent fast radio bursts. The comparisons were chilling. While not in any human language, the signals shared mathematical properties, repeating pulse ratios, geometric symmetry, and timing that aligned with prime number lattices. A theory took root, that Voyager's signal had been intercepted and manipulated by an intelligence far beyond human capability. More disturbingly, whatever echoed Voyager's message back seemed to understand its hardware, reactivating dormant systems, rerouting communications, and commanding it in ways its original engineers never intended. This wasn't static, this was control. That left only two possibilities. Either we encountered a natural intelligence embedded in the very fabric of space, or we were noticed by something designed. As more data came in, the narrative shifted. What if Voyager 2 hadn't just passed through the heliopause, the theoretical edge of our solar system, but something much older? Perhaps a buffer zone, a no-man's land between civilizations, or dimensions. Some began referring to it as the Zone of Echo, a name lifted from science fiction but eerily fitting, because what they were observing was no longer just signal return, it was signal enhancement. Voyager would send a ping and something would return it more clearly, as if helping us understand. That's when the real question emerged. Were we witnessing the first contact, not with a being, not with a ship, but with a responsive field? A presence embedded in space itself, capable of understanding and replying to our technological touch? Now, a rift is growing within the global scientific community. Some hold firm that the incident was caused by natural phenomena, complex magnetic fields, high-energy particles, or cosmic dust. But others believe the evidence is too precise, too structured to be random. They argue that this may be the beginning of contact, not in the way we imagined with radio greetings or alien landings, but with an intelligence that speaks in mathematics, that listens in frequencies, and that responds not to words but to patterns. So what now? Do we send another message? Do we build a new probe? Or do we fall silent, cautiously, respectfully, knowing something out there may be listening more closely than we ever imagined? For nearly 50 years, Voyager 2 has floated through the void, a message in a cosmic bottle, crafted by human hands and powered by our dreams. We launched it hoping to touch the stars, not knowing what might answer, and now it seems something has. We used to believe the edge of the solar system marked the beginning of emptiness, but Voyager 2 has shown us otherwise. It may not have entered a void. It may have crossed into structure, into design, into awareness. And now that the door is open, the question is no longer what lies beyond, but what comes next.